Hi everyone, my name is Jessica and today I'm going to be reading from the Orchard Book of Magical Tales. Once again, I've had this book from when I was a kid and it's a beautiful book with collections of stories from around the world that teach us all lessons, and it also has beautiful illustrations as well. So I really highly recommend it if it's still around. And today I'm going to be reading from The King Who Wanted to Touch the Moon, and it's from the Caribbean islands. Long ago there lived a king who always had to have his own way. Everyone had to do exactly what he said, immediately. No talk, no arguing. Well, one night the king looked out the window and saw a silvery moon riding high in the sky, and there and then he wanted to reach out and touch it. But even he couldn't do that. So he thought about it and thought about it and thought about it. Night and day he thought about it, and at last he worked out a way of reaching out and touching the moon. He would have a tall tower built that reached the sky, and then when he had climbed to the top, he would be able to touch it. So the king sent for the royal carpenter and ordered him to build the tower. The carpenter shook his head. A tower so tall, it reaches right to the moon. Your Majesty, it is not possible. It can't be done. Can't? Shouted the king. No such word as can't in this kingdom. Come back tomorrow morning, first thing, and tell me exactly how you are going to build my tower. That night, the carpenter did some hard thinking, and in the end, he worked out a way of building a tall tower. The next morning, he went to the king and said, Your Majesty, the way to build the tower is to pile lots of strong wooden chests, one on top of the other, hundreds and thousands of them, until it reaches the sky. The king liked this idea, so he ordered his subjects to search their homes and bring all their strong chests to the palace immediately. And if anyone refused, well, there was plenty of room in the prisons for them. So of course the people brought their chests and gave them to the king, and there were hundreds and all kinds of chests, big and small, carved, polished, painted, plain. Then the carpenter and his assistant set to work. They laid chest upon chest, one on top of the other, up, and before long, outside the palace, there stood a tall tower. But when all the chests had been used, the tower did not even reach the clouds. The king said to the carpenter, Make some more chests. So wood was found, and the carpenter and his assistant sawed and hammered and made more chests, and then added these to the tower, laying chest upon chest on top of the other, up and up. When all the chests had been used, the tower only reached the clouds. The king said to the carpenter, Make some more chests. There is no wood, Your Majesty, said the carpenter. Then cut down all the trees and get me some wood, ordered the king. The carpenter shook his head. All the trees, he said. Oh no, we can't do that. Did I hear you say can't? Have you forgotten that there is no such word in this kingdom? Said the king. Go and cut down all the trees immediately. So then all the trees in the kingdom were chopped down. The great ancient trees, the slender saplings, the fruit trees, the nut trees, the flowering trees, all were cut down and sawn into planks and made into chests. More and more chests. The chests were laid on top of the other, up and up. And when all the chests had been used, the tower reached beyond the clouds and up into the sky. The king looked at the tower and he was pleased. He said, The time has come for me to climb my tall, tall tower and touch the moon. He began to climb up and up and up, until at last he stood at the top of his tall tower. He looked up and he stretched out both his arms, but he still couldn't quite touch the moon. He stood on the very tip-top toes and stretched them more. He was so close, so very close. He could almost touch the moon, but not quite. The carpenter looked around. as he shouted down, "Bring up another chest, just one. That will be enough." There were no chests left, no wood left, and not a single tree in the land. So he called out, "Your Majesty, there is no wood left. There are no more chests." The king shouted back, "Then take one out from the bottom and bring that one up here." The carpenter was astonished. He couldn't take a chest out of the bottom of the pile. Well, could he? Surely the king was not serious. Then he heard the king shouting again, "Didn't you hear me? Take one from the bottom immediately." The carpenter raised his eyebrows, shrugged his shoulders, and then did exactly as he was told. He pulled a chest from the bottom of the pile, and you can imagine what happened next. The whole tower came tumbling down, king, chests, and all. So that was the end of the king, who had always had to have his own way, and who wanted, above everything else, to touch the moon.